Today I'll be reading from John chapter 6, verses 1 through 13. Please stand. Jesus feeds the 5,000. After this, Jesus crossed over to the far side of the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Sea of Tiberias. A huge crowd kept following him wherever he went, because they saw his miraculous signs as he healed the sick. Then Jesus climbed a hill and sat down with his disciples around him. It was nearly time for the Jewish Passover celebration. Jesus soon saw a huge crowd of people coming to look for him. Turning to Philip, he asked, "Where can we buy bread to feed all these people?" He was testing Philip, for he already knew what he was going to do. Philip replied, "Even if we had worked for months, we wouldn't have enough money to feed them." Then Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "There is a young boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good is that with this huge crowd?" "Tell everyone to sit down," Jesus said. So they all sat down on the grassy slopes. The men alone numbered about 5,000. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks to God, and distributed them to the people. Afterwards, he did the same with the fish, and they ate as much as they wanted. After everyone was full, Jesus told his disciples, "Now, gather the leftovers so that nothing is wasted." So they picked up the pieces, filled 12 baskets with scraps left by the people who have eaten from the 5 barley loaves. Amen.
What a day, what a day, what a day. Can we put our hands together once more? Oh, you can do better than that. We had some amazing things from our city ministry. Now, allow me to introduce myself. I am the boy, or at least I was, that offered my lunch to Jesus and saw him do a miracle. I never expected that one decision that I made as a child would follow me all my life. However, as history would have it, where people don't know my name, they do know the act. They remember that there was a boy who did what his parents had always taught him to do: share. And when he did, amazing things happened. Now, I can remember that day almost like it was yesterday. I mean, there's a song that says, "I remember that day." However, I remember this day differently because I remember what I felt like when the moment first happened. I remember being so nervous. I mean, I was almost fully in fear, thinking that I would go and talk to Jesus, thinking that I would take this offering to God. But I did it anyway. I followed. I went up to Jesus and handed him this lunch that I had: 2 fish, 5 loaves, and in his hands, I can remember it. He took it from me. He offered it up to God. And it was as if the sunlight changed. The day was different. And all the people that were there had enough to eat. They kept breaking, piece after piece, breaking, piece after piece, meal after meal, individual after individual, kid and adult, all alike, ate unto their heart's content. And then there was leftovers. And I don't know about you, but I grew up in a house where leftovers were like the best thing ever. It wasn't nothing like a leftover sandwich. Leftovers flowed from this amazing moment that Jesus provided. Now, if I can, let me color in some of the lines for you, because oftentimes we hear the story, but we might miss some of the things that led to the story. I was there, not really because I wanted to be there. I'll just be honest. I had parents who made me go where they went. And maybe you didn't know about the story of Jesus, but Jesus in modern times, he would have been all in your timeline. Every single time he did something, he was healing over here, he was helping over here, he was providing over there. I mean, he was blowing up everywhere. And so when people heard that he was going to be in our neighborhood, when they heard that he and his disciples were going to be close, I mean, people were flocking from everywhere. And of course, today was my day. I thought I was going to be playing with my friends. Yet here come my parents telling me we have to go and hear this guy talk. I listen to people talk all the time. Why do I have to listen to somebody else talk? But here we go. And we get there and he's up on his hill and there are people everywhere. And so I tried to snil away. Me and my friends are trying to play. We're doing this and my mother keeps giving me the eye. You know that eye that means that if I keep doing what I'm doing, then soon I won't be able to do nothing. That eye. And I sat there and we listened and then we kind of tuned out. But we listened, then we tuned out. And I felt like he was just teaching forever. I remember some of the stuff that he was saying. He was saying things that didn't sound like what we had heard from everybody else. Like I've been raised up and, you know, we knew an eye for an eye or tooth for a tooth, but Jesus would say, turn the other cheek. Like, give my face for somebody to slap me? That was weird. Then he would say stuff like, judge not, lest ye be judged. And I wasn't a judge anyway, so I didn't pay that no attention. But then he started talking about how when we fast, we shouldn't fast so everybody knows that we're fasting. But that we should go about our normal days, that we should almost hide and don't let the other hand know what the other hand is doing, because it's not about getting all the accolades for the good things that you do. It was these amazing things. In fact, he was pushing us to live into the scriptures in ways I had never heard before. And so I listened. He grabbed my heart. And then they started looking around and I noticed, man, people were starting to get hungry. And it was almost like, you know, if you had ever gone to like a really long church service, you know, like, I mean, not that I know everything, but I'm saying like, it sounds like, you know, the Jesse Jackson funeral. It was like, maybe y'all didn't see it. It was like 5.5 hours. It was like 5.5 hours. It was in there a long time. And it was amazing because they stayed. They stayed in there. And the people stayed and they were listening to Jesus too. They were. But then people started getting hungry. And I was hungry too. But I had a lunch because my mama told me to pack my lunch. And I listened this time. So I had my lunch and I was getting ready to eat and people was all talking about how hungry they are. And then this one little boy tried to take my lunch. And I was like, not today, because this is my lunch. And then the disciples were like going around asking people for food. They were like, anybody got something? There's a lot of people here. So I ain't say nothing at first. I was like, Nobody has anything. And then I heard him keep asking. When I looked around, I was like, surely they're not trying to feed all these people. Because all I had was 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. But I kept hearing them. And then I heard Jesus ask them. And I was like, wow, Jesus is asking for something. Maybe I should just give what I had. So I walk it over to him, and I place it in his hands. And the other disciples, they were honest. They were like, what are we going to do with these 2 fish and these 5 loaves? I knew what I had was insufficient, but I wanted to give it anyway. I knew this was barely enough for me, but maybe in his hands it would be something different. And I gave it. And what I loved about Jesus was he looked at me and he made it seem like what I was doing was the best thing that could ever happen. Even as a child, I didn't have a job. I wasn't bringing all this big stuff, but just this little lunch that I had. And I saw him look at it. And it felt like it was the best thing, like I mattered. Even as a kid, it didn't matter if I was an adult. It didn't matter if I had everything, because I was willing to give to Jesus even as a kid. It mattered. And he saw me. And I remember him taking it, and I can't remember what he said. I've tried to remember what he said because I had other lunches that I thought I could do it with, and I couldn't because I couldn't remember what he said. But I do remember how I felt when he took this lunch and he offered it up. I remember all the people looking around like, what is getting ready to happen? The disciples were told to do something that they know that they could not do. Start feeding the people. And you can tell in their faces they were not happy about this, because now they're about to start giving food to people, and they knew they weren't going to have enough. And now they were going to have to deal with the fact that all these people were going to be angry because maybe one person might eat, but not all of the people eating. But they too were obedient. They started doing it. And they kept doing it. And I don't know how, but it just kept making more. What wasn't enough became more than enough. What couldn't do did more than what we thought it could do. It just kept happening. And as long as it was in his hands, things just kept moving and growing and making and providing. I was blown away. And what I was worried about, if I could be honest, I was worried that I would give my lunch and then I would be hungry. That I would give to Jesus what I had and then I would get nothing in return. But in the same way that the disciples were breaking off, where Jesus was breaking off and the disciples were passing out, they brought it back to me too. And just like everybody else, I sat there, I ate to my heart's content. In fact, I ate a little bit more than I probably should have. But my mama said I could because I was being good. Excited about that one. But it just kept flowing. And then I saw that everybody ate. Nobody had an issue. Nobody had less. Everybody had what they needed. And this is what really grabbed me, is this didn't seem like it was all that important. Like, all these people are there. All these people are running after Jesus. He had been healing the sick. He had been exorcising demons. Like, this is big stuff. But these people being hungry, we had never seen a leader or teacher that cared this much that they would do a miracle for hunger. I mean, these people could easily go make their own food. They might be a little hungry when they got home, but why would you care so much that they were hungry right now? But Jesus did is because he cared more than just about what he taught them. He even cared about what they felt and experienced. He cared about their lives. He wanted to make sure that they not only ate spiritually, but they ate physically. That the church and his leadership wasn't just about spiritual stuff, but it was about the natural stuff that opened up our hearts to hear the spiritual stuff. He fed, and he fed, and they ate, and they ate, and then they collected. Now, I've thought back on this story for years. All my life, all the things that happened in that moment. I wondered why it was so important. What was Jesus really showing to us? What was he communicating that happened there? I mean, granted, feeding 5,000 with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, and to be clear, it was well more than 5,000 there. 5,000 just counted the men. But it wasn't really about the feeding. It was about the fact of who and what Jesus was able to do. And they don't tell this story, but I think it's good for us to know. I remember hearing one of the disciples being frustrated at the multiplication. In fact, I can't fully remember, but I think his name was Judas. And I remember him saying something like, if he can make all this food right now, why do we always travel so hungry? If he could do all this multiplication, how come we don't have all the stuff that we want? How come we don't have everything all the time? I mean, we just saw what he did. Does this mean Jesus is choosing for us not to have? That Jesus is choosing for us to live without? Of course, I was a kid. I couldn't answer that question. But it sure made me think. It made me think about what I thought about Jesus, because everybody came there for Jesus to do something for them. Everybody was there because of all the stuff that he did. But what happened when he didn't do? Who was still around when he wasn't doing the miracles? Who still wanted to be there when he made sure that although you had enough, you might have wanted more? We can celebrate the 5,000 that got a chance to eat. But do we celebrate the moments that we were hungry and he still was with us? Do we celebrate the times that he walked on the water just to make sure he found us in the storm? And the storm didn't stop. He just met us in the storm. I watched from afar, and I grew, and I began to understand that I too had gone to Jesus that day, probably for the wrong reasons. My family took me, and I didn't even want to be there. I didn't even care about what he was doing, but something about seeing him, it let me know that it didn't matter what I had or did not have, that in his hands,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In his hands, his hands, it was in his hands, anything could happen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In his hands, our insufficiencies become sufficient in his hands.
Yes, sir. Bless his name.
In his hands, even the things that we don't want to deal with, they can find right space in his hands. And another thing, going back to this story, forgive me, I'm just thinking about it as I think about it. I was also happy that day because for the first time, the kids were up front. I know you don't get that. Like, y'all are all adults, and I am an adult, and I understand it. But in my culture, the word kid was almost synonymous with servant. We meant nothing. We were treated like nothing. And yet in this moment, Jesus highlights someone who he could have easily overlooked. And I was able to be a part of what Jesus wanted to do. All of these adults there, but it was me, the child,
My God.
that had the ingredients for a miracle.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I don't know who may need to hear that sometimes the ingredients for a miracle don't look like what you think they do. They don't look like the stuff that everybody is saying the miracle will be bred out of, but they're the ordinary, mundane things, the things that you didn't even think would have a thing. In fact, you didn't even pack it for it to be a miracle. You have it because you just had it because you knew that you wanted it, but in the hands of God.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The ordinary things become extraordinary in the hands of God. The things that you didn't think could do it will be able to accomplish more than you ever imagined in the hands of God.
Yes,
all the things that were not enough become more than enough in the hands of God. And I remember children and adults, old folks and young folks, everybody there feasting. Nobody complaining. Nobody saying they wish they had fried fish instead of the grilled fish. Nobody saying they wish they had sourdough because all I had was rye. And it was that good multi-grain rye, that Daniel fast appropriate rye. Said, nobody had to worry about the issues. They just got a chance to eat.
Lord have mercy. Have mercy.
And although this was the moment, I couldn't help but let this moment reign in my heart for the rest of my life. I didn't accept Jesus that day. I did follow him. I kept looking, kept trying to make it all make sense. And then we kept hearing more stories. We had already heard about the woman at the well, and that prompted us to go. We had seen him show up. We had seen him now feed these, and later he walks on water. Then after this, he continues to do amazing things. He even moves all the way to a man named Lazarus. If I'm not incorrect, I believe he visited you last week. Everybody called him L.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the story about him just kept adding more and more. But even worse were all the things that were happening with the stories. The leaders not wanting to acknowledge the truth that was Jesus.
Yes, sir. Preach.
People keep questioning the works of Jesus. And as much as you would have thought that anybody who ate that day would have known who he was, there were so many that still missed him.
Yes, sir. Teach us. Teach us.
There were people who had witnessed and experienced miracles
My God.
that still didn't believe in the one who did them.
My God.
And I hope that maybe you all are better than we were. Because I'm worried
Watch it, preach.
there may be too many of you
Watch it, preach.
who have seen or experienced miracles and still don't believe
My God.
in the one who does them.
My God.
Now, I've come to tell my story because it took me a while to believe too. I didn't grab it all at once. It didn't all make sense immediately, but something in that moment was the seed that began to plant. Watered and germinated, it began to grow, and the more I thought about this Jesus guy, the more it made sense. There were none that had ever been like him. There have been other healers, but none like him. There were other rabbis, people who would follow, but none like him. None like him that cared this much, this deeply, that had the connection that he had. And I remember when I saw that day what he did. And this is one of the things that still gives me chills. And maybe this is why people missed him. Because after he offered it up and blessed it, he didn't carry it out himself. He put it in the hands of the disciples. Some people may not have even known that Jesus had touched it before because it didn't come directly from Jesus' hand. It came from the disciples' hands. People were eating miracles that were taken to them by somebody who didn't even work the miracle. And they might have missed the one that worked the miracle because it came through the hands of somebody that didn't work the miracle. And I don't know, I pray that none of the disciples were trying to act like they were the miracle worker, but I'm so glad that despite anybody else, all of the miracle kept going. And I believe that there are some miracles that have been happening maybe in your life. Maybe you didn't see all of the hands that were in the background. Maybe it came at the hand of somebody else. But can I tell you, there was a miracle worker in the background. There was a man in the background that when you put stuff in his hands, when it touches his hands, it is worthy, it is worthy, it is worthy of your praise. Let me tell you, there is a God, there is a man, there is one that can do what nobody else can do, can grab your life up and change it, can fix your issues and make a way, can take you out of all of the things that you have been going through if you would just
My Lord.
in his hands.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I remember I was a little bit old and I saw all the things that Jesus had done with some bread. And I thought, if he can do that with bread in his hands, what could he do if I put my life in his hands? I believe there's a song that says he got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. Well, let me ask the question, are you willing to put your life in his hands? You don't have enough, but your life in his hands, it'll always be enough. You've been sick, but your life in his hands always be enough. You don't know where to go, but your life in his hands, you always got direction. What would happen?
Yes, Lord.
What would happen if we just put our life
In his hands.
in his hands?
Bless his name.
I put my life in his hands. And it didn't go exactly as I thought. Everybody wasn't excited for me. I lost some friends. But what I gained in return, I'd never turn back. I'd never second guess it. My life has never been the same since I put my life in his hands. The God that saw me, the God that received my small gift, the God that made plenty is the same God that wanted me. And so I pray
It's a good word, Pastor.
that my story might be able to help you today,
It's a good word, Pastor.
reminding you that the things that we put into God's
My
hands
God. My God.
will always
Yes, sir.
be enough.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Pray with me.
Yes, sir.